Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. The Indian economy has now been recording a consistent slowdown in its growth rate for 27 consistent quarters. It's now budget time again. It's that point of the year when we look at the government to come up with measures to revive a slowing economy and also to reform the economy. The last budget that was presented by the government was in July 2019 and it was a damn squib. It was a wasted opportunity. The government at that point of time was unwilling to recognize the kind of slowdown that we are in, and thus the budget per se did not come up with any suitable measures to revive the kind of slowdown that we are facing. Thereafter, when it became imminent that the slowdown is worrisome, the government did initiate several measures to revive and reform a slowing economy. It also indulged in flip-flops. It did not initiate some of the measures that it had announced in the July 2019 budget. But very little has come out of it. The economy continues to be in a slowdown mode, such that today our growth rate is at a 7-year low. Our investment into fresh projects is at a 17-year low. It is languishing at a growth rate of a mere 0.9%. As per the IMF, our growth rate for FY 2020 is expected to be a mere 4.8%. Such being the situation, it has become a major political agenda for the government in order to revive the sagging economy. And as reports go, the Prime Minister himself has been involved in the budget formulation process. He has met various stakeholders, including experts and industrialists, trying to see what is the formula that needs to be implemented in order to revive the economy. At the moment, it's not just about receding macro indices that we see in the economy today. More than that, the biggest challenge before the government is one of receding trust in the government, receding trust in the economy. Thus, the task becomes more difficult for the present budget. It's not just about tinkering and reviving numbers. That's a quantitative game. The bigger challenge is a psychological game, which is restoring trust of various stakeholders in the economy and in the government. The finance minister thus faces numerous challenges when she presents the budget tomorrow. And what are the challenges? The first one, where is the money? Every expert says that the government will need to spend our economy out of its slowdown. What is said is that the government will need to spend money and thus take care of the kind of slowdown we face and initiate growth. But then money has been missing. Tax collections are expected to be at least 2 lakh crore below the target figure that the government had set for itself. And disinvestment receipts are also expected to be short by about 85,000 crores. The treasury is thus empty and the challenges on spending are not less. Thus, the first challenge that she faces tomorrow is an empty treasury. The second one is to do with jobs. We have been seeing a scenario of increasing joblessness. Because of unemployment, household incomes have come down, and that has directly impacted consumer spending, which in turn has impacted the slowdown of the growth rate that we see. Till joblessness is not cured, till jobs don't come up, we are not going to see an increase in consumer spending. And that's the second challenge that the FM has on the cards tomorrow. The third one has to do with the credit crisis. An economy grows if there is credit available from banks and from NBFCs. And today, both of them are strained in India. NBFCs just don't have the money and banks just don't have the confidence to lend. If this is the kind of credit crisis that continues, any kind of a reform or a growth measure that the FM announces will be handicapped. Till the credit crisis is not cured, do not expect growth to just take off. Along with the credit crisis comes an investment crisis. The private sector does not have the confidence to risk its capital into new projects, and that has hampered GDP growth, it has hampered the creation of jobs, it has hampered consumer spending. Thus, investment crisis is the other challenge that the FM faces tomorrow. Along with this comes the fact that the Reserve Bank is at a dead end. So far, it was pruning interest rates, hoping that that will revive the economy through its monetary policy initiatives. And now it is at a dead end. The governor said in the MPC meet of December 2019 that interest rate cuts are not happening at the moment and let's wait for the budget announcements by the finance minister. So, if there are any hopes that monetary policy is going to drive growth further, those hopes are no longer valid. We are not going to see interest rate cuts, especially when inflation is also now at a 7-year high. We are also seeing a situation where exports are not taking off. We are seeing a situation where even foreign investors are now wanting to sit on the fence, very skittish about what's happening, trust quotient depleting. And finally, the other challenge that we see is the kind of unanimity which was there in GST formulation and amendments is now missing. The last GST meet did not see unanimous decisions. It saw decisions which went by voting. That only says that there is political factionalism which is going to be more and more apparent, and thus the government will face more challenges from there. So the FM has a huge amount of challenges when she presents the budget tomorrow. Having seen the challenges before the finance minister tomorrow and the handicaps that she faces, let's see what are the popular expectations out of tomorrow's budget. The first expectation doing the rounds has to be to do with a cut in personal income tax rates. And that expectation has come because last year the government pruned corporate tax rates very sharply. But we think there is not much elbow room available to the finance minister to do that. But there could be substitutes. They say that dividend distribution tax could be done away with in order to ensure that companies are encouraged from distributing higher dividend such that households get more dividend income. They also say that long-term capital gains could be done away with. And in order to do so, the proposal doing the rounds is that if you hold your shares instead of 1 year for 2 years, any shares held for 2 years and sold will be eligible for long-term capital gains. The news doing rounds is that might be exempt from tax. Apart from that, there's a proposal doing rounds that securities transaction tax might be done away with. And that's because when you include brokerage, when you include GST and STT, the cost of transacting in India's capital markets is very high and that needs to be reduced. Like any budget, the other expectation doing the rounds is that there will be measures to simplify tax laws, there will be measures to reduce tax harassment, and because of those measures, probably tax compliance might go up, which the government needs very badly. The other proposal doing the rounds is because the service tax Samadhan scheme, the dispute resolution scheme of service tax was resounding success, it is expected that the government would come up with an IT dispute resolution scheme and also a dispute resolution scheme for customs duty. The fact is that the scheme of the government for service tax dispute resolution was a success. As against a targeted collection of 35,000 crores, reports say that the government has collected 38,000 crores so far. And apart from the tax collections, the service tax disputes have been resolved. A similar scheme is expected for income tax and customs duty. In order to reduce the growing disparity in wealth and income in India, certain experts think that wealth tax could be revived in some form or the other, such that the wealthy section of India pays some kind of a tax in order to reduce inequalities of income and wealth. The other proposal or the other expectation which is doing the rounds is that some kind of bond scheme might come, some kind of infrastructure investment link scheme would come, which comes with tax benefits for those who invest in those bonds. And that is not just a fundraising measure for the government, but also to provide some kind of tax incentives to the taxpayers. It is also expected that the government will come up with certain schemes in the budget tomorrow for giving a boost to investment in rural infrastructure and to increase farmer income. For increasing farmer income, some kind of an agri-credit scheme is proposed. That's what is doing the rounds as far as news related to budget proposals are emanating from Delhi. What is our expectation out of the budget? Our expectation of the budget is pretty simple. What we are expecting out of the budget is that it should not deny the reality, it should accept the reality. What are we expecting out of the budget? We recognize the fact that there is no magic formula today to revive an economy. The economic revival of India is not going to be quick and sharp, it's going to be slow. We recognize that. So, the proposals that might come tomorrow are not going to come with any kind of a magic formula. They are only going to come with a slow revival of the economy. What we are really expecting is a budget which is honest. We are expecting a budget which accepts the reality and thus formulates proposals accordingly. We are expecting a budget which does not come up with any bogus estimates or data and tries to show a picture which is rosy. We are expecting a budget which accepts that yes, there has been a worrisome slowdown and that needs to be tackled with. We think that if this kind of an honesty comes in the budget, the biggest challenge that the government faces, which is one of restoring trust in the government and policy formulation, will be successfully tackled. That we think is needed in the budget, because if that is done, the confidence of the investor, the confidence of the foreign investor, the confidence of the consumer will be restored in the economy. And that's all that we need to do. And that's all that we need to do in order to revive India's slowing economy. All that we are expecting is an honest and transparent budget tomorrow. Let's watch what the proposal will come out to be. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.